We spent a lot of time on that one exercise, and it was only 8 bars, but we really took it apart, looked at the rhythm separately from the pitch, and I think it's a good idea when you work through the other exercises, all those exercises which are there to help you create interesting rhythms using mixing different subdivisions. So take your time, separate the pitch and the rhythm, look at each bar separately, and then try and link them all up and create.
Exactly, break it down, practice it,
put it all back together. Yeah. Good.
I like it. What are we doing in this half?
What we've got to do in this half is pick up that last lesson objective, which is...
What's that?
Fingers. That's your first finger of your left hand.
It is.
That's all you've used so far on your fretting hand when you've been playing notes, whether that's an A or a G or a C or a D. What we need to do is develop your left hand, our left hand finger technique now, so that as we progress through the lessons on the Gigajam Essential Bass Skills course, we'll get more interesting rock grooves to play, and the notes will move around more.
Yeah.
So sooner or later, one finger is never going to be enough. We need to develop our control and technique, get all these other digits into action, improve our dexterity.
We've got 4 of them. We might as well use them.
We do. If we give them a number, we'll call this one number 1, and so on.
2,
so
3,
far,
4.
that's all we've done. We've played, for example, an A on the 5th fret of the E string, the 4th string, the thickest string, using the first finger. But of course, we're talking about how we need to get these other fingers happening. So let's just pick one at random. Let's pick the 3rd finger. Actually, it's not quite at random, because that's a very important finger in bass playing. Not that any of them are unimportant, but there are certain patterns and shapes for things that come up time and again. So developing our 3rd finger is really handy to be ready for when that kicks in later.
Okay, so 3rd finger is a bass player's best friend. Well,
you could say that, yeah. And so we're going to just play the same note, A, and we're just going to play the same rhythm, which is back to dear old quarter notes. But instead of using the 1st finger, which we're very comfortable with now, very familiar with using, we can use the 3rd finger. So it shouldn't be too difficult. So here it is.
And obviously there's no change in sound there, is there?
You'd hope not. Let's see if there is.
No, you're in luck.
I think I got away with it. Good. So that's just using the 3rd finger to play the same A we've been playing all along up to now. And if you look at the material there in the Gigajam lesson 4, that's exercise 3.
Okay, so exercise 3 is just that bar of quarter notes playing the A on the 3rd finger.
3rd finger, left hand, A.
And what have we got to look out for with that? Because obviously, I would imagine playing it, your 1st finger is going to be a lot stronger, because that's your index finger, that's the one you're going to use more than your 3rd finger. Yeah,
much more dependable, much more reliable, the gripping, the opposable thumb, all that
of course,
stuff.
That's true, yes, the sort of pincer movement you've got there, the pressure.
So that finger is naturally going to take a while to find the same kind of comfort and control that you had with the other one. So we need to be realistic about our expectations. It's never probably going to be exactly the same as that. We just need to get it up to some reasonable standard so that we can depend on it and rely on it, so that when we get into playing more elaborate rock grooves later on, it's going to be there for us. You know, all the weapons are firing properly.
Okay, so how should we practice the other fingers?
Yeah, we've got exercises here in our Gigajam lesson which will help us do that, and I believe we've got a video clip which will show exactly that. So if you can kindly operate that for me, thank you, Natalie. That should come up, and we'll see someone demonstrating exactly what you were talking about, using different fingers.
Alright, so that's moving from the different bar to the different fingering.
There you go.
That's the 3rd finger. And that's our little baby finger there.
That was very good.
Finger.
And then back to the beginning again. Yeah, so there's an exercise which is carefully written to make it simple by keeping just an A, but actually make sure that each of these fingers gets a good workout. So as you saw there.
Well, let's do it in the studio, I mean, because that was quite small. Let's do it.
Let's try it now, yeah. So I would start with my old friend, 1st finger on the 5th fret of the E string playing the A, and we'd get the 4 quarter notes as follows. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what you saw in the video clip was Dave just going straight on, but probably there's an earlier stage of practice. Before that, I just want to check out, for example, that my 3rd finger was working like I did just now.
Yeah.
Or my 2nd finger.
So do them all separately, get a feel for it.
Yeah, I'll just make sure they're all there and the message is getting through, and get an idea of how it feels. You know, when you use your pinky, can I depend on it? Is it actually going to work for me? Is it going to be able to push and hold down the string?
Because there is a level of pressure that you do have to apply, isn't there, to get a good clean note?
There is, isn't there? You know, there's a big chunk of metal here, this E string, so it does take a little bit of effort to push it down. We're not talking about, you know, Mr. Universe here, and we don't want to get unnecessary tension in our hand or anything, so you just want to kind of press the string rather than stress about it. But it is a factor, isn't it, this physical thing? So,
yeah.
So let me try that exercise as we just saw Dave do now.
So starting on our faithful one, our first finger. Moving on to
Did
the
you hear a
second.
different sound? Didn't do that very well. There was a kind of a bit of a squeak there. Or
Was that the vibration of the spring, the string rather, sort of hitting the fret?
yeah, that was me not really cueing properly, so I made a big effort that time.
What do you mean by cueing?
Cueing, yeah, that's just a word I used then, which meant I didn't really hit the string at the right time and in exactly the right way. And I think they're the key points when you're changing from one finger to another. That's always a dodgy, potentially dodgy moment, isn't it, where you might have a little gremlin, you might get a little bump or a squeak or not quite. Did you hear that then?
Yeah.
No, not quite. Just those sort of things. It's not exactly a wrong note, but
No.
obviously the recording process being pretty unforgiving, any little things like that is going to be picked up. If you're playing in a band, I mean, it's not that they don't matter, but you wouldn't worry about it so much. The main thing, as we spoke about in one of the early lessons, is you keep going, keep the vibe happening, keep grooving. And a little thing like that, as you saw then, if you're not paying attention, you could easily miss it, so you might get away with it.
Okay. Well,
So that's exercise.
that was 4.
That was exercise 4. The next exercise is, again, playing with all the fingers. We've done it for the letter note A.
Yes.
Let's try it for another one.
Oh, right, okay.
So in previous lessons we learned the note G, which is on the 3rd fret of the E string. Exactly the same principle, exactly the same process. I'll play it with my first finger first, because I always do.
Yes.
Make sure I know how it works. And then I'm going to try and change to my 2nd finger. And then my 3rd finger.
Okay. So obviously we've got to remind again that although this is the left-handed fingering, you are a left-handed player, so therefore it's your right hand. So
Yeah.
we should probably call it your fretting
Maybe
fingering.
call it the fretting hand. That's a good idea, Natalie, yeah. So I'm trying all the different fingers of my fretting hand individually, one at a time, to make sure they're all there for me.
This is quite a steady, comfortable pace that we're going at. Would an idea be to speed it up, maybe?
Yeah, you can try all sorts of things. I think that's a good idea, to use your common sense and your creative imagination. Different things you could try. So I could try this. I could try, instead of going back through 1, 2, 3, I'm counting my fretting hand fingers.
Yes.
I could go back down through
Ah, that's an idea.
3 and just try that out. So it's a good idea, I think, to try and get
2.
more mileage out of the exercises. And what you were just suggesting then is, if I'm playing along with the extractor, with the Gigajam virtual band, you can of course change the tempo. So if you feel like you're getting on with it and you want to pump up the tempo, just test yourself a bit, try and get it. Like when you're playing video games, when you feel good enough to get through, to win through to the next level.
Exactly.
Something like that.
You go on, it gets a little bit harder, but then you get better at that, and then you go on to the next level.
Yeah.
Talking of that, let's talk on. Let's go to the next note.
The next note is playing C, the next exercise. So again, exactly the same stuff, but of course, as we always do with the Gigajam lessons, we're trying to combine everything we've learned before. So what we're learning right now in the second half of lesson 4 is this fretting hand, left hand, fretting hand, finger technique, and we're now moving it around to all the notes we've learned. So far we've learned and played A and G. We're now going up onto the 3rd string, the A string, and again 4/4 notes. C, first finger, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, and 4th
And
finger.
is there a degree of different pressure? Because obviously the strings are different thicknesses.
Yeah, I think that's true, actually. You know, anyone who's ever played guitar will be immediately aware of the difference between the thickness, the gauge they call it, of the strings. So I think there's a little more energy and control required to play the E string, and as you've seen so far, we've kind of started on that first, so that it's a pleasant surprise when you come to control the other strings. They're
Yeah.
actually lighter. So we're going heavy to light rather than the other way around.
All right, well, we've done C. Let's go on to D.
Yeah, the only other note we know at the moment, thus far in the Gigajam Essential Bass Skills, lesson 4 is D, and there it is, the last exercise there.
Exercise 7 if you're following along with your course notes.
And so I do exactly the same thing, 4 quarter notes with the first finger on a D, 4 quarter notes with the second finger.
On another angle, although this is helping us with our fretting hand, our left hand and the right hand in your case, it's also helping us learn where the notes are in the position on the stave.
Yeah, that's good.
Because it's breaking it down really easily for us.
We spoke about that a lot, didn't we, in the first half of the lesson about reading. And I think it's a very good point that you make, that it's really only familiarity.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You know, you've spent a little bit of time here with us, and already your reading has improved immeasurably just from familiarity, just being exposed to it.
All it is, I suppose, is the key thing to the whole of Gigajam, the whole of learning music, is just practice.
Yeah.
It's just familiarising yourself with it, keep going back to it, get yourself to a comfortable stage and then move on.
Yeah, and use all the media files to help you practice that and record what you do, and then go back and check it and listen to it without playing so you can see exactly what you did.